Okay, we're recording. All right, hello everyone. This is Lori Shea, the founder of the Gifts of Autism, also the creator of the 5-class series, Embracing a New Perspective in Autism. I'm really grateful for all of you guys to be present here today. Some of you are students and some of you are just checking out, what is possible. And my intention is that you walk away inspired and you walk away with a few, maybe a few tools that you can start practicing with your kids and your students. And just so you know, I mean, yes, it's autism related, but all these tools work for everyone. And I'm going to call on some of the people who have taken the class and ask them to share it with you. But I want to just share a little bit about myself because I will be sending this out to some of the people who have requested the recording but are unable to make it right now. So, just so you know that they're not going to see your full names, they're just going to hear your voices, just so you know. And I'm not going to be sending out the texts, so we're all good. All right, so yeah, I'm just going to share a little bit about myself. I've been in the field of autism for 30 years now. I'm like dating myself, but I'm also very proud of it because I've seen a lot of progress, a lot of shifts since I started in 1990. And in 1990, people didn't even really know the word autism. I would tell this person like what I did, and he was like, he's like, autism. It's like he couldn't compute it. The word autism was not a household word yet in 1990. So, I mean, it was around, but most people didn't know the word. Today, you say autism, most people will be like, oh, there's a lot of that negative stigma. And I'm here, and a bunch of us are here to help shift that stigma because there is a lot more going on. And so I started in 1990 as a classroom teacher, preschool, and it was a reverse mainstream class. So that was basically having special needs and then bringing in typically developing kids. So kind of opposite of what we're used to. And I can tell you now that these kids are grown up. I have the ones that are on the spectrum, a bunch of them are still connected to me because they're just very heart-centered kids. And now they're young adults and they're so very childlike. I can tell you that. And the kids that were actually in the class that were typically developing, they are now very compassionate kids, very compassionate adults. So it makes sense, being around special needs and the magic and just seeing how different kids are. And that age was 5 and 6 and 4, like 4, 5, and 6. So, the kids are still so young and malleable and, they're still learning and being conditioned. They're just starting to be conditioned. But so it's cool to hear that a lot of them are actually teachers now, or like therapists and going in that direction. So I just felt like that was a little tidbit to share. And then after that, I worked in an older classroom. Oh, but before that, 1995, I was working in that classroom that I was just talking about, that reverse mainstream class. And one of the kids, Michael, every morning, like clockwork, and most of us know these kids, very structured, very routine oriented, he would create a Jenga block tower cabin every day. And one day I was like, I'm gonna make one. I'm gonna respect his space, but I'm gonna make my own. And I got as far as the roof, and it just kept collapsing. And I was like, man, but he makes it look so easy. What is wrong? Like, what the heck? And finally, like, I just looked over to him, and I could see he just was like cocking his head down, like shifting his neck to a certain degree. Like I could see it was like a certain degree. I didn't know what degree, but I knew it was like a specific degree. And I was like, oh my God, these kids see things that we don't see. They're able to see things, and there's gifts. And now all of a sudden my mind starts opening up, and I'm like, the gifts, these kids have gifts. What are your gifts? And instead of looking at like, this is the law of attraction, right? instead of like, oh, these kids are, need help and they need to fit in and I need to help them, I need to fix them. It was more like, oh my God, like there's gifts in these kids and I want to know more and show me your gifts. That was like my mantra, show me your gifts, show me your gifts. And they were like showing me how present they were, that they were living in the moment, that they're authentic, that they're living in joy, that they're not judging us, that they're loving everyone. So unconditional loving and accepting, and they don't expect us to change at all. So I was like, oh my goodness, wow. And since then just completely expanded, and all of a sudden I'm in the midst of these nonverbal, like I would call autistic savants or autistic mystics, who were able to communicate on keyboards, on iPads, on letterboards. Letterboards are more now than when I was actually working in the field. But yeah, even me, just a little transparency. When I first learned about the RPM, like I couldn't grasp it. I was like, I think that this BS. Like I really didn't buy into it. It just didn't compute for me. So I get it when people are like, I don't believe that. We all go through that curve. It's like, but how open-minded can we be? And what if it is possible that, these kids are learning in different modalities, and there are a lot we haven't yet tapped into. And, they are here to teach us a lot more than I think that we're here to teach them. A lot of them are actually awake, and they're very present, they're unveiled, and they reflect us. So that's a bit of important aspects about some of these kids. A lot of the kids, they reflect us. They're like mirrors. So I'll give you just a quick example, and then I'm going to bring a few people up to the mic and not But one example was, before I actually left the autism community, not community, but I was also an ABA, and that's a whole nother story. At the end, right before I decided to leave and start teaching and creating my own model, this is it, and it's always expanding. I went to this mom, and the kid was just very aloof, and I just asked her, "Oh, did Matthew have a good day today? What did his day look like?" And she was like, I think he had a really great day. And I was like, oh, wow, really had a great day? Huh. So then I went and I sat in the chair in the backyard, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm the one. I'm aloof. I'm like, don't even want to be here. And he was totally reflecting that. And as soon as I clicked in and I like switched on, it was like he was a totally different kid. So practice that. Notice when they're doing a certain behavior that seems like they're in their own world, and be like, where am I? Am I in my own world? Start looking at the reflection. So that's a little perspective for you guys to practice and just be aware of, notice. So I'll just share a little bit of what the 5-class series is, and then I'll call in a few people. So like I said, I got to a point when I was getting my master's, and I was like, I know that autism is my thing and it's my mission. I was like, but ABA is not my mission. And to me, there was a lot of things that weren't right about ABA. And I was like, and there's something like, I've been in this field for a long time. I mean, there's some things that I just know. And then, like I said, 1995 is when the kids started showing me that they were processing differently, that they're wired differently. And so I started creating the Gifts of Autism, which is a Facebook group, and my website, thegiftsofautism.com. And I decided right then, it's like, I'm not going to follow the typical ABA route. To me, it wasn't really about the behavior. It looks like behavior, but if we don't have speech, it's going to look like behavior, because how do you communicate when you don't have speech? You're going to show in some other way. So to me, there's no behavioral issues in autism. There's communication that they're trying to relay, but to me, for sure, like I don't use any behavioral approach when I work with the kids. Actually, what I do is I accept them the way that they are, and then they like literally show up in ways that like blow my mind because I don't put demands on them. And I know some of you work in the schools and it's like, well, that sounds great, but how do you do that? Like, how would I do that? And I would say be curious first, ask them, show me your gifts, ask them, what do you want to show me? Because if you start asking these better, bigger questions, more like down the rabbit hole, you're gonna be surprised because these kids are multidimensional. They're hearing you in your mind, a lot of them, and they're hearing on so many different levels where we're basing it on on very low vibration, which is more verbal. We're thinking, oh well, they have to be verbal, they have to be like us. But really what they're saying is like, we want you to be more expansive in your being instead of just being in the body, just being verbal. So the 5-class series, we have like a 5 different what's the word? I'm like losing that word. Content. Like I bring a content every week. And sometimes it'll shift at the very last minute. And it also depends on the intentions that we share. So at the beginning, I always ask everyone to share their intentions. What would you like to receive today? What is your intention? And we all verbally share our intentions. So that's what we do like every class. And then the very first class is about raising your vibration because the kids' vibration is super high. They're at a higher frequency. And even though it doesn't look like it to most of us, because we have judgments on what that looks like, which is, they're not paying attention, but they are paying attention. They're totally like present on different levels. The more that we raise our vibration, the closer we are to bridging the gap between us and them. And as we bridge the gap, like I could tell you, I have bridged my gap. And a lot of people are still working on it. And there are other people that have definitely bridged the gap. And you can usually tell when you get frustrated, or sometimes the kids are definitely going to have a tantrum. Like I'm around kids that still pull my hair. It's not going to change, but what's going on inside of me is different. I'm not like, oh my God, like what's wrong with him? Or it's more of like, okay, like, wonder why he's pulling my hair. But it also like, hey, you can't pull my hair, that hurts. You have to talk to them like you're talking to anyone else. But there's also sometimes things that are going on like beyond their control. Sometimes they don't have great motor skills, and it's not connecting. So there's so many different levels. So we have to really not go into like, oh, this is behavioral and there's these 5 different functions or 4 functions. It's like, that is so obsolete right now in my book. Like there's just something bigger going on. So one of the kids recently pulled my hair and I'm like, hey man, that hurts. Why are you pulling my hair? It's like, tell me what you want, but as I'm saying it, my energy is very neutral. And it's like, okay, you know what? I'm working with you. I want to know, what's going on. I know maybe you can't control it, but it hurts. Can you like loosen up? So I'm not saying like the behaviors will completely disappear. That's not always the case. So I just want to be transparent. So the first week is raising your vibration. Then second week is my favorite, and a lot of you guys here that are in the course, is this amazing tool that I teach called Connecting to the Higher Self. Ariel, I'm going to mute you for a second. Okay. So yeah, it's called Connecting to the Higher Self, which it's not exactly telepathy, because not everyone has even believed that they can be telepathic. So that's a part of the problem with telepathy, even though we're all telepathic, and we're always receiving information, but we may not always trust it. So this tool is actually a lot of fun, and you can connect with the kids, you can connect with any person, you can connect with an aspect, you can connect with really anything. I don't want to get too far into that, but it's a good way to connect with your kids. So like when I think of like Pearl would be a great, this would be a great tool for you, and Talita for sure. You'll appreciate this as a speech pathologist. Um, so I can definitely see that value. Um, so imagine being able to really understand like what's going on behind the scenes, and then like as you connect with them, you'll see that like they'll start to act differently. Like their energy will be much more calm, and they may just start to show you things, even if they're nonverbal. They may be able to communicate in a different way. So I've seen amazing things. I definitely want to get Heidi to share her perspective around that, but not right now. But definitely, I'm going to be calling on you, Heidi, for that. Um, and third class is, it varies where I go. It depends on like kind of where the class is, where the people are in that class. We typically go into self-forgiveness. It's called compassionate self-forgiveness, which is most parents, especially parents and even educators, I was definitely guilty of this, was like I had a perspective, I had a perception of what autism is, and then eventually it was like I outgrew it, and I used to get really triggered by some of the kids, or a lot of the kids, by the behaviors. I didn't know any better, which is fine. Like, I can look at it now and say like I didn't know any better. And I've had conversations with another former student who is now another autistic mystic or master soul, Heidi, who she told me that, it's okay, like you didn't know any, like you didn't know, and it's okay, like it's done, but we still have to be aware of, how we're treating them, how we're talking to them. If we're talking to them like we're talking to a 12-year-old instead of a 5-year-old, because these kids understand everything that we're saying. And so, like, so in the past, maybe I would be like really like, just triggered, and then like react to that. And I can remember a few times with Nicole, and then eventually I was like, wow, I have to forgive myself, for buying into the belief that autism was this neurological disorder and that I had to fix them, so that part, and it's even deeper for parents, because it's like sometimes, 12, 14, 20, who knows, more than that, years of like seeing their child a certain way, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I had no idea that you're a master soul. I didn't know that you understood everything and you remember being born in my womb. Like I've heard that kind of level. Like these kids will say, I remember being in my mother's womb. I'm like, okay, I don't. It's like, what? It's like, really? Like, what happened? You're like, that's where my mind goes. Like I have tons of questions. So self-forgiveness is a huge piece to like let go of like these old, guilty feelings and things that we still have like holding on to, that we just say, you know what, I did my best. And yeah, it's still present. So that's a good opportunity to practice self-forgiveness. And class 4 is, I want to say, sometimes it's ideal scenes. We create, we create, things that we want to see in our life. Sometimes it's our work. A lot of us are actually creating new communities. We're creating circles for families. We're creating all sorts of different things. Some of us are writing books. So it's a good way to kind of look at that book from like a final point, like, oh, it's already written, and like, how am I feeling? And we're putting all of that energy into like now. So like we're like adding energy into this vision that we have. And it's a little bit deeper than that, but that's definitely one of those. That's a big day where you could see where everyone's kind of going and kind of moving into, and it's exciting. And the fifth one, it also varies like where we're going. Sometimes it's a Q&A, it's going deeper, it's healing. I know we had our very last class, there was a lot of healing that was taking place, and it was huge. And I have to say, finally, this very last class, I feel like it was the match of the vision that I created for the 5-class series. Actually, it was even for the 3-class series. It was like in my mind, this is what it was. It was the way I wanted to look. So our last class definitely was like the bullseye. I was like, oh my God, this is it. This was my vision. So our visions work. We just don't know when they're going to manifest. So, and when we come together and we support each other, and you're going to see how amazing this dynamic group of people, how we connect together, how we support each other, how we hold space for each other. It's a very safe environment, and you can fully express and share your deepest hardships, misunderstandings, and your biggest wins. And I definitely hold space for that, and so do the people in this group. So with that being said, I do want some people to share. And again, I'm so grateful that a bunch of you guys showed up today. Heidi, I wanna ask you to come on first.
Hey, Lori.
Hey, Heidi, thank you so much for being present today.
My pleasure.
I know you have an amazing story, and I mean, I'm enjoying watching your story unfold and continually unfolding. What you're doing, your son, taking your own learning and your opportunities, and now helping other parents and educators also with what you learned, your wisdom, but also being super open-minded. And like many times where I just say, all right, Heidi, are you ready for the hot seat? And you're like, sure. And like, I just want to acknowledge you for that, because I know it takes a level of trust and also openness, right?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, you do create that safe space, Lori. I don't hesitate because I just know in my gut that it's, you know, it's coming from you, and your intention is always so pure and good and moving forward. And I just trust that by my jumping in and saying yes, I will benefit. So there's really no question for me.
Thank you. Thank you. So can you share a little bit about your journey, and then just share a little bit about your journey first so people know, your background?
Well, sure. Well, I have two great sons. My big guy, Eric, is 16, and my younger son, Ethan, is now 14, and Ethan has autism. Pretty, what people would call severe autism, minimally verbal. He can speak, but it's mostly with scripted language and food. If you say chocolate cake, no problem, or songs he likes to listen to, that kind of thing. But it's pretty limited language, and he also has had very severe behaviors related to the autism. And it reached a point where he was really injuring himself. He was injuring us. The walls of the house were shattered to the beams from him banging his head into the walls. So it reached a point where, to keep him safe and us safe, he had to move to a residential placement out of state, to a school for kids with autism, where he could have that 24/7 support that he really needed. And so that has been a game changer for us. He's calmed down tremendously and is happy where he is. Now, the key with all this was that in the school that he was at right before he had to leave, you mentioned ABA, Lori. We had started him at a very strict ABA school when he was 3 years old. And it started out okay. He was learning a lot of really important things. But over time, it began to deteriorate to the point where it became a nightmare. And where his behaviors were getting worse and worse. He was in more and more distress. They were insisting on verbal language being the only way he would be allowed to communicate. And it just became a terrible situation. And so we moved him out of that school to another school diametrically opposite. There's a technique or an approach called DIR floor time, which is a developmental, I forget what it is, developmental individual relationship therapy. And it's based on the concept that instead of focusing on behavior and trying to change behavior for the kid to look more typical, whatever that is. This is focusing on relationship as the foundation for all learning. That the love and trust of relationship is what provides the safety for any baby who learns. And usually you see that learning evolve in the context of play. And play is trying new things and taking risks and copying and imitating and thinking of things yourself, all the things that we think of with play. And that is the foundation of this other school that we moved him into. And one of the blessings in that school was the introduction of facilitated communication or supported typing, which is a technique whereby a teacher will provide some emotional and even potentially physical support, because our kids tend to be, they're differently wired in many ways, and including the mind, body, hand connection. And so Ethan is extremely impulsive, and if you put him in front of a keyboard, he'll just start hitting the same letter over and over again. But through this technique, for example, it slows him down. It actually makes him reset. And by slowing him down and having him focus on what he's looking at, it gives him the ability to have intention for what he wants to communicate and type. And so it enabled him to begin to communicate in a way he had never been able to before through the typing. And it was through that technique that a kid who we thought really didn't have a lot going on cognitively turned out to have the most profound intellect and wisdom and connection with God. And I had read an entire conversation in my first group with Lori, and in it I talk about a conversation that I had with Ethan that changed my life and set the course for what was to become my new purpose in helping other moms. And I'll summarize it, but in that conversation, I asked, when I knew Ethan was going to be leaving the school to go away, and I kind of threw away all hesitation and just asked him whatever was in my heart, actually. And I said, what are your thoughts about God? And in that conversation, it was pretty amazing. He went on to say, well, to type, God is in my heart and will always protect me. And I was pretty flabbergasted by that. And I said, well, did he tell you that? Yes, when I lived in heaven, he told me that. I remember a time without bodies. In heaven, there are no bodies, just spectacular energy. And he went on about this, I said, he said that he chose to come here and have many challenges. And I said, why? Damn it. Why? And he said, well, I have to fulfill. Oh, he said, I will, in response to that, he said, I will be greatly rewarded in eternity. And I said, well, how can we help you on your journey? And his first answer was, I have to fulfill my journey as prescribed by God. And I wasn't that wasn't enough of an answer. So I asked it again, well, but what can we do to help you? And he said, he typed, you just have to love me. And that is your job. The rest is my job to do. So that was a pretty extraordinary conversation. And what it really did was that it let me off the hook to try to fix this kid, because my whole life beforehand had been dedicated to trying to fix him using the ABA, have to change him, have to make him typical, have to make this autism go away, spending, I don't even know how much money that we shouldn't have spent on pursuing every possible cure approach. Anything anyone promised, I was there, and I was such a sucker for anything anyone said. And this conversation let me step back and say, don't buy into this tragedy narrative. This kid is on a holy mission, and let me just be here for him and be his guide and be his mom, and love him, whatever that means in terms of meeting his needs, but let him unfold as the amazing human being that he is. So that kind of put me on the path to now reach out and help other moms. And Lori alluded before to people, doing different things. And I recently wrote a book, and the title of the book is "You Just Have to Love Me," based on that conversation. And so what I want to do, what I am doing, is transforming the pain of the autism journey, and I want to turn it for purpose, to ease other people, to recognize the amazing children that they have, and work beyond to really create an autism and neurodiversity embracing world, because there's no end to where this can go. And all of it is based in love, and when you come from love, there are no mistakes. There's only learning. So anyway, that in short is my background and what brought me to Lori. And I don't even know how I found her. God obviously brought her to me, or me to her. And her courses have enriched me beyond measure. Her tools, the people she brings in, I don't know how she does it, but she brings in like-minded people who, maybe they just totally love their kids, and they may be struggling on the journey, but there's no question that they're completely dedicated to their kids and wanting to ease their way and ease their own way at the same time. So Lori has a gift for connecting with people with autism and bringing in their families who are, their guardians, not their guardian angels, as we know, but their guardians, their champions in this lifetime. So I love the tools that she has taught, and they've been very powerful in easing the way. So I'm so happy that you've all found your way to hear more and connect with Lori and be enriched by her as I have been.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Heidi. And I would say, as far as like attracting the right people, I feel like it's being authentic. I feel like you're on that path as well. It's like, yes, as soon as you heard this from Ethan, it's like, are you willing to, walk this path now? Or are you going to just like hear other people and their tragedy story and just be like, yeah, I totally hear you. Or are you going to take that step up and say, you know what, I used to believe that, and now I see completely different. Do you know what I mean? And so as you step into that authentic place, you start to attract people just like you. Like, obviously not everyone is that same vibration. So people that resonate with this information will be like, oh, wow. And the ones that aren't will definitely not be ready for this. So that's kind of how it happens, I believe.
I agree.
And I'm inspired by watching yours. I'm like cheering you on, Heidi. Cheering you on. Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
I want to bring Jillian next, because Jillian is also, you took the class and you're not a parent. And I want you to share, what you got from the class and, whatever wants to flow through you. So Jillian, are you willing?
Yeah. Hi.
Hey,
Oh my goodness,
you
you
got the
guys.
mic, girl.
Cool. Yeah. I would love to share how wonderful and timely this experience was for me. So yeah, I'm a little bit like Lori in the sense of, not having my own kids, but being very connected to the neurodiverse community through my work, and just kind of finding my place in that work, in the sense of like this huge passion. I feel very much at my best when I'm with the children, and very much just sort of comfortable in my own skin. I often say I'm better. My best self with the kids, and and otherwise I can kind of feel even sometimes a little bit awkward. I'm like, these are my people. This is where I belong. So this class came along at the perfect time for me, and definitely a lot of healing for sure. definitely a safe container. I really want to stress that for anyone who's new and, curious about coming into like a group class or doing anything online where you're sharing or, you're tuning in about your heart and your family and your kids. Like that can be a really vulnerable place. And I just love the way that Lori, um, Lori, you really keep us safe in our sharing in the sense of allowing all of it. You don't have to show up and be a certain way. It's not about, every day is going to be great. There's challenges. There's days where we're processing emotions and we're vulnerable in our sharing. And I think that this is a place where you can experience all of that in a safe way. And be held, there's space for all of it, which is really, really unique. I also teach yoga and meditation. So I've done a lot of like new agey holistic healing stuff, like a lot, probably, really, truly, probably my whole life, just because my dad is very neurodiverse and has a lot of unique and wonderful, magical sort of spiritual beliefs. And so the way that I was raised was maybe a little bit outside of the typical like Canadian household. I'm from British Columbia, and my dad's from London, England. So anyways, it was not your typical household, but I just I so appreciate the way that everyone is held in this class, because not every healing space or class or circle or gathering, any kind of place where there's that collective community, you know there's a lot of that positive psychology stuff going around right now where everything has to be okay all the time, and you got to stay positive, and you got to, get rid of the negative, no bad vibes, like all of these kind of catchphrase things that are going around. And I don't know that that's always the reality. So without saying too much more about that, I just wanted to say how much I appreciated just being able to say it like it is. I think that this is the way forward, truly finding a community like this where we really want the best for the kids, in the sense of them being able to show us the way, allowing them to shine their light, be themselves, be accepted, but not just accepted, like let's take that further and let's celebrate, because I truly think that every child should be celebrated and deserves that. And I love the part of a conversation that ended up coming up, which I loved and appreciate, is like, it doesn't end at 18 when maybe the funding or insurance stops. Like we need to talk about what happens with individuals, when they are out of high school, or when they turn 18, 19, or, in different areas, and maybe it's a different age, but making sure that people have the best chance at the most independent, expressive, fulfilled life as possible. Like that is my vision. Everybody being supported in their uniqueness, and being allowed to express. Like we all have unique abilities and talents. And I think that it's time for us all to sort of awaken to that realization, and to, hold a really high standard for supports, for care, for education, all of it. And I think this is a really great launch pad. So thank you, Lori. I think that wraps it
Yeah.
up.
And just quickly, because I know that it's when you came in, you were at a certain place,
Yeah.
healing, right? You were healing, and
Mm-hmm.
it looks like you have really taken off. You have a
I
lot.
have.
Yeah,
You
and I
guys,
want, yeah, and
yes.
share a little bit of that, because I think that's huge.
Oh my gosh, you guys, I was devastated. I'll tell you, like when we started in December, I had completely turned away from a project that I had been working on for years. something happened and everything fell apart right at like the last minute before we were launching some autism retreats that we had put a lot of time and effort in. And I'm talking like when this project stopped, I had so much time in my day. I had never even really recognized how much work I was putting in each day. And so there was like this emptiness, there was this grief, because it was unfortunate, given the circumstance, and I won't go into the story too much, but it was just something that I had to walk away from, just to make sure that I was maintaining integrity in my own work and the way that I like to support families. And oh, it was devastating. I was totally at a low. I couldn't even really do my work because it was triggering me at that point, because this loss had taken me out in such a way that, it was like, even when I was doing appointments with families that I was still keeping up with, I get off the phone and I was like, oh, it's so hard to do this right now because I feel so lost without this project. And so this class, honestly, like my fire is lit. I'm back on track. I created a new Facebook group for my area here in British Columbia for families to join. Like, I just feel like, yeah, we're cooking along again. It's so awesome, Lori. I'm so excited. And I have this like, rejuvenated energy. Everything feels new, fresh, and healed. Honestly, I feel very complete about that process now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm inspired because I've just seen how much you did, I think, over the last weekend, and I was like, oh my God, this woman's on fire. So, and I love what you're doing. You're creating a local, reach out, a community there, and I think that's a huge piece that we all need that in our communities. I'm not saying that we all need to do it unless you're called to do that, but like you said, so many kids or young adults are aging out right now, and it's a lot because I believe it was like 1999 when there was like an influx of autism. Autism was just being diagnosed around 1999 and 2000, and so all of a sudden, like they're here now, and they're aging out here in America. It's 22, I think, that the aging out is. So it's a little bit over high school, but it's still very real here. It's absolutely, a lot of parents are already like just burnt out. That's the word I keep hearing. So the work that you're doing, is valuable, and I'm grateful that you took the class, and we're always connected. If there's a way you can share, even I know you have a like page too, so if you have that, you can share it in the text if you want, or you can say it.
Cool. Sure. Yeah, I have, thank you. That's really sweet. I have my page, which kind of encompasses my yoga work, some of my personal life, because I like to make it personal. Online, you kind of sometimes disappear behind these screens a little bit. So, there's yoga stuff on there. There's my neurodiverse work. It's like the whole shebang. So it's called Support Lifestyle Love, and it's on Facebook. So you're welcome to join me on there, and you'll find all sorts of things that I've posted over the last little while. Thanks again, Lori. This has just been so cool, and I'm really excited for the new group that's going to come together.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Loved your presence, and you're still here, so I'm not going to look at that as
I'll be there in spirit, no matter what.
Yeah, awesome. All right, thank you, Jillian. Ariella Shira, because you are a speech pathologist, I think it would be great to hear from you. And I could say Ariella has been with me since the three class series, and she's pretty much taken it every time. Like, I don't even know how many times. Okay, so big shout out to you, Ariella Shira, and definitely would love to hear you share your, just your story, because you have a great story, and how the class has helped you. You're good.
Okay. It's my husband's birthday, and we're here celebrating with my grandson. So
Can you just say something really fast, and then yeah.
In 2003, 2004 school year, I was a speech therapist working in a preschool program. I had been working there for 10 years. And in that year, my caseload doubled in 1 year. And the children just felt different to me. Usually before, when I helped them talk, I felt I was lifting them up energetically. But now I felt like I was dragging them down when I tried to help them use words. And so there was nothing in the textbooks. I went online, and the Kogi tribe in the Amazon said that there's a more evolved way of communicating than we do with words, communicating with our hearts and our souls. And so I thought, well, maybe these children are part of our evolution and they're designed to communicate in this more evolved way. And that's why I'm feeling like I'm dragging them down when I try and get them to use words. And so that was how I began to see these children in a different way. And then I got a telepathic message that I needed to create a center to support the arrival and thrival of these new children who were coming in. And that it would be called the Crystal Cradle. And so I had created a website, and I gave talks on it. I had a booth at an autism festival. And then I started a pilot program once a week in the afternoons. And only one family responded to that, and they lived far away. And so I just put it on hold at that point. But I've just moved into Los Angeles, and I'm getting that there will be a much bigger response to what I'm being asked to do, and that I need to get back to that. And so it's been so wonderful to be able to connect with Laurie and be part of her classes, and to hear the mothers and a father and other professionals in the area who are all seeing these same things in the same way. I'm not so isolated anymore. There's a community of us who are seeing this. And as we hold hands together, I think we can really do things that can support the arrival and thrival of these amazing children.
Thank you, Ariella. I know that you're in a rush, so I appreciate you sharing your perspective.
Okay. Yeah, I'll still be listening, but
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, thanks for sharing your 2 cents. Appreciate it.
Okay. Was there anything else you wanted?
Maybe like what keeps you coming back to the class?
Being in community with people who see things the way that I do, and it's giving me such hope and the energy to move forward in my project that I want to work on. So it's profound, very, very special for me.
Thank you. Your presence means so much to me, and yeah, just want to say that. Thank you.
You are a very wonderful friend. This whole project. Thank you.
We got lots of work to do, right?
Yes.
Let's make it happen. All right. Yeah. Thank you, Ariella.
Make it happen.
Yeah. Bye. Let's make it happen. Yeah. All right. Tim, love to call you to the mic. So Tim, when hopefully Tim hears us, Tim finally, I've been calling in a dad for a long time, and I was like, oh, I really want to work with dads and maybe have like a dad support group. And finally I was just like, I just put it on my Facebook wall, and I'm like, who do you know who's a dad and who's ready to connect more deeply with their children? And one of our mutual friends tagged Tim And so that's how we met Tim. But we did create through our law of attraction as well. And so grateful for for
Oh,
you,
what's
Tim.
that then?
And maybe you have your family here. Um,
Yes.
yeah, this is great. I love that you're bringing your family. So can you just share, what you received from the class so far?
Totally, Laura. I'd love to. Thank you. Um, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we got you.
Perfect. Well, first I'd like to just say that I really like what you're talking about earlier about, getting on the child's level, and engaging yourself, entering their room instead of expecting them to come to your world, and how these kids are responding with behavior and sometimes not always words, but more actions, and how the raise the awareness to recognize that, so this class is super helpful for that, super helpful for connecting with your child on any other level besides talking, which is awesome, and so that's really powerful, I love the open environment and the open stage that you provide to each and every person that comes in and is involved with the community here. And I love having that community, that feeling of shared empathy and compassion for one another. And so it really creates a real loving and understanding environment for everyone to be a part of. So that's really important. And but this class has really helped me to connect with my son Colton. He is 10 years old. He has a pretty rare form of we'll just say it's autism. He experiences a lot of those same characteristics, symptoms. Um, it's really powerful to be able to communicate with him, and through these classes I've come to realize how strong I am and how much he is here to teach me and help me be a stronger person. So that's really important to me as well. And I just really enjoy being here and being part of the class, and I'm just really glad to be a part of it. Pretty
Yeah,
good feeling.
I was gonna say what comes forward for me right now, which I'm gonna trust my intuition, is um, how connected you are already, Tim. Like you're just extremely connected intuitively. Just you can tune in to the higher realms, as you were just saying the word realms. Not everyone even knows what realms means, and yet these children are connected to those realms. But I was really touched the time when you and Heidi had that connection with Ethan, and like and you would say you can pick on me anytime, which I love it when when the students are really that open to like, hey, you know what, like, hey, I could either just let you guys like raise your hand and just like pop on, or and you're like, just call on me. And I was like, okay, thank you for the permission. But
Yes, totally.
I felt like, and I just want to bring in that, I'm not going to go into major details, but the way that you connected with Ethan was a real healing for Heidi, from my perspective, because I don't think Heidi hears what you had shared with her about your connection with Ethan. And because we tend to hear the negatives, right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
or the very limited beliefs that we have about autism, or, oh yeah, he did great today and this is what he did, because most people just don't see the magnificence of these children. And so now it's like you being able to connect to Ethan at that higher level was just like mind-blowing for me. Okay. And I could feel the impact of what it had for Heidi as a mom, as Ethan's mom. So
Yeah, it was
how
super
did that
powerful for
feel?
both of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, how did that feel for you when you and Heidi were connecting, I would say?
It was a super like heightened emotions. I mean, emotions were just flowing from me. I was feeling so much positive energy and emotions that it was just it was pretty unbelievable, you know, in myself, and you know, being able to connect on that level, you know, and gaining that level of understanding. I mean, it really took me to another level of understanding. And the type of creature I am, I love to understand. I love knowing the truth, and I love having that level of understanding. I crave that in my life, and to gain another level, every level I gain, you know, it's super emotional for me. It's, you know, it's even crazy that you said that about, you know, the realms, you know, because just last night I read my angel card, and and my angel told me that very same thing, you know that your gift is, you know, my gift is love and compassion, and
Mm,
my ability is that ability to understand and go to that another level. And
wow.
I could not be, and my challenge was opening up and understanding my, you know, understanding my power, and that power that I possess, as well as all of us, you know, unlocking it really.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's, you know, again, these classes, to tie that into here, you know, I mean, it's huge when we're given that stage and we're all able to share our experience individually and given that time to speak. And it, you know, it's super powerful, like you said, you know, a chance to speak to each other, you know. It was really super powerful. And I mean, I freaking love Heidi for it, and Ethan. You know, you know, it's so awesome and raw, and like
Hmm.
I think Jillian said earlier, vulnerable. You know,
Hmm.
and that's humongous. That's humongous.
Yeah. Well, you guys are really next level when it came to like really showing up. I mean, Jillian shows up on her birthday. I was like, really? Wow. If anybody wanted to take a day off, I would understand. But no, she was like, here I am, I'm ready. And like, I love that. You guys came ready and prepared to go deep and to heal. And it's true, like what you guys are saying right now. It's like, it's not like you're just doing your own healing, like you're healing through other people too. It's like we are this one collective that we're healing, like a one amazing entity that we're becoming together. So
Yeah,
that's what's coming to me right now, hearing you, Tim.
Lori.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, it's Heidi. I'm gonna need to go, but I just needed to respond to
Yeah,
that.
please do, because I telepathically was asking you to.
Oh, I heard you.
Okay, thank you. So go for it, girl.
Yep. I just want to echo what Tim said, that in that exchange, it was almost, I mean, I was truly an instrument for Ethan in that conversation, because you know, I found myself saying, you know, well, reach out to Ethan, and I was like, where did that come from? You know, and it was Tim's love that just created that opening, his love for his children, his love for us in this conversation, his love for Ethan, his openness. And it just, so the words just sort of fell out of my mouth, truly without it totally bypassed my conscious mind. And the words just came out of reach out to Ethan. And I was like, where am I coming from with this? And what am I telling, you know, what am I telling him to do? Like what? And yet it, as soon as I said it, yes, my nature is to second guess. And so I think that was like, what? But then simultaneously, instantaneously, it was, of course. And Ethan needs to connect. Ethan wants to connect with Tim, and so it is. And they did, and it was the most magnificent. I didn't know what was like. I didn't know what was hitting me. I mean, it was like we were standing in a vortex, and the power of that loving vibration was absolutely extraordinary, and mind blowing. So it was quite an amazing experience. for me and for us who were physically there, and Ethan was not physically there, but he was present, very much so. But I need to jump off, but I had to say that.
No, I'm glad you did, because I was like, okay, Heidi, this is your this is where you pop in. So I'm glad that you got it.
Yes.
You know, it's like the full picture there. So definitely, like, there was magic when that happened with Ethan. It was like, oh my God. I mean, I can only imagine what it was like to be you know, to have that connection with Tim and Ethan. And it was like, what is going on here?
Well, it was just that he was, in that moment, he was not my child.
Oh, yeah, huge. Wow.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Thank you
In
for
that,
saying that.
he was our
Ethan.
spirit, our Ethan. It was, yeah. It was Ethan
It
and
was.
Master Soul.
Yeah, exactly. Master Soul.
Yeah.
I think we have to really start really owning that, and, you know, like touting that they are master souls. And I'm going to be sharing more, and there's going to be a Facebook Live around another master soul. So this is where we're heading next time, by the way, into this master soul. It's the master soul series.
Oh, count me in on that one.
I know, I told you.
No doubt. For
All right.
real.
All right.
All
So
right.
Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you.
thank you, Heidi, so much. Grateful for you. And so at this point, and thank you, Tim, you know, for your share as well, and just your presence and being the man of the group, but the male energy probably is a better way to put it. That I call it Mr. Mom, but so much more. Just really grateful for you. And everyone here. I mean, I just have such a special part in my heart for you. You guys are just amazing. So raises my vibration every time we meet. So I just want you to know that. So I want to open it up for questions. You know, if Talita, if you have a question, or Pearl, if you have like a question that you'd like to ask the panel here, or me, you know, this would be a really good time. And no pressure, but this is a good opportunity if you do. So I'll just say, because I know Pearl is a teacher, a special ed teacher, and Talita is, I think, a speech pathologist. So I love that we have all of these different kind of experiences that you can sort of connect with, you know. So, all right, I'm guessing that you guys are not asking if you don't know how to unmute. I'm not sure if you do or not, but if you want to, you can always put a message in the text box while we close it up. So that is what the 5-class series looks like. Definitely, I'm glad that I had people here that have been sharing their experiences with us, so that it's not just coming from my voice and my own perception. It's coming from a collective of different perceptions that are coming in as one. So with that being said, I'm going to trust that we are complete. And I'm going to be sharing this with people that I feel that are aligned to it, that are asking for the recording, just so you know. And if this resonates for you, reach out. You can either find me on Facebook under my name, Lori Shayu, or thegiftsofautism.com, or giftsofautism@gmail.com. So if you're interested, reach out. And this class is always expanding and magical beyond our imagination. That's all I can say. All right. Thank you, everyone. And we'll connect soon.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, y'all.